Mrs. Dina, thank you for joining the podcast.
The pleasure is mine.
Super
Thank you for
excited.
having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. You guys taking the time to do this. And we'll talk about everything in a second. But something I want to ask you that I ask all my guests is,
Sure.
what is something you would say to your 18-year-old self?
Ooh, nice question to begin with.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. 1, get closer to God as close as possible.
Yeah.
2, don't let other people influence you. Know what you want and go for it.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Dang, that's such a great way to start already. So, let's talk about kind of like not your upbringing necessarily, but your faith, right? So, were you like raised as a Christian? Did you have curiosity about thoughts? Did you not believe in God? Like, what was your view on the perspective of faith at the time?
Okay.
When did it start?
Okay. So I was raised up as a Christian.
Okay, awesome.
Just a little background. I'm Egyptian. I was born in Egypt, raised in New Jersey.
Wow.
From the day I was born, I was raised up as a Christian.
Awesome.
Grew up in church with my parents, with my family, but it's been since day one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Because, for me, like my parents are from Venezuela. I was born and raised here. But for me, it was like one of those things that culturally, Hispanics, or just Venezuelans at least, they lean to Catholicism. But my mom and my dad received Christ when I was a young kid. I was like 12 years old and stuff. But I really did not have that moment of like actually being a true believer. You see, I would claim by tongue like, oh, I'm a Christian and stuff, Sunday and Wednesday. But Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday was like live like the world, go crazy, be inappropriate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So were you always like, were you just drawn towards the Lord as a child,
So I'll be honest, as a child, yes. Growing up,
Yeah.
I experienced, so I'm Coptic Orthodox. I experienced a few different things that I want to say led me to stray a little. And I'm not talking about anything wrong. I'm just talking about the idea of not going to church, not praying, not reading the Bible for a while. And then I'll be honest, this company got me even closer than I was before.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Praise God for that. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And so I want to talk about PHP in a second in terms of that. But, you were clearly raised and stuff. Like, how did you get involved with PHP to begin with?
Okay. So I was introduced to PHP to Mr. and Mrs. Stacy, Christopher and Amanda Stacy by Mina. He introduced me to them. It's a long story, but I was introduced to them.
We got time.
Okay. I was introduced to them, to the financial world in general. And at the beginning, I was like, this isn't for me. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
I was in pharmacy school, so I was like, this is definitely not for me.
Okay.
I'll focus on my career.
Yeah.
I came in and I met them and the whole nine yards, and then I left and I was like, it's not for me.
Wow.
Until a while later, I was honestly just sitting home and I was like, what am I really doing? I'm not happy where I am.
Yeah.
I'm not living out my dream. I'm living out my parents' dream of becoming a pharmacist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was going into classes completely depressed.
Wow.
I couldn't even focus or pay attention or any stuff. I was like, you know what? What do I really got to lose?
Yeah.
Let's give it a try.
Wow. So you kind of went to college because that's kind of like what was not pushed upon you in a rude way, just pushed upon you like culturally, I guess, like, hey, pharmacy, success, school, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Did you drop out?
I did.
Wow. Okay. That's really good. That's awesome. Because a lot of people, like, they talk down on dropping down. I never went to college to begin with, and I don't say that in a way of being ashamed, because I knew what I wanted. You see, I find it kind of like hard to comprehend sometimes when people say I'm not going to college, but I'll figure it out as I go. Never been. I'm a huge planner. I already know what I'm going to do in August of this year. Like, that's how much of a planner I am, And so when I made the decision of like, hey, you know what, I'm not going to go to college, like, I had a plan, I had a thing intact. I wasn't going to be like, I'll figure it out. Not my scheme, And then I started trading the stock market, was making good money, lost everything to my name, and then just it's been amazing and great to see how God has used that opportunity though, right? So when you dropped out, were you ever like nervous of like, job security, or what if this, what if that, Did that ever cross your mind?
Oh, trust and believe. My stomach was in knots. I couldn't breathe for weeks.
Oh, man.
I was like, this is a bad idea. My parents will definitely not approve of me doing this. So as I said, I'm Arab.
Yeah.
We're raised up to you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Engineer, not my thing. Definitely not my thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Okay, if I got between lawyer and doctor, I wanted to originally do lawyer, but that was their last option for me. So I was like, okay, let me go into becoming a doctor, going to pharmacy school. I have multiple degrees. I got my biology, bachelor's in biology, and then I have a bachelor's in public health administration.
Wow.
And then I said, you know what? Let me try it out.
Yeah.
Did I really want it? No. But I didn't realize that until after.
Yeah.
And then the moment I decided not to do it, I was like, okay, how am I going to break this to my parents? How am I going to break the news to them?
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was like, you know what, that's not me. I'm not happy. I'm going to school and it's not who I want to be.
Wow.
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to do my own thing.
Awesome.
And I saw my father do that as I grew up.
Entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Okay.
So it blew my mind as, you didn't go to college. You became an entrepreneur, but you want me to go to college. It wasn't making sense to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
So I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can stay, my stomach and knots about it, and not want to tell them, or just, hey, listen, it's not what I want to do. I love you both and I respect you both utterly, but that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not happy, and I want to pursue something else.
Wow. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome to be able to pursue that. And so, what was it though about school? Because I think it sounds like you're a very studious person. You're very naturally inquisitive, which is a great trait to have. But what was it about the school? Was it the actual schooling that you weren't a fan of, or was it just the actual career? I was like, I don't want to do this. This just doesn't interest me. Or was it both, or what? You know?
So definitely both.
Okay.
One, I didn't have it in me to actually study and take exams. I was beyond that point. I already have 2 bachelors. I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to doing that. And then the second part was I wasn't really liking pharmacy school. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It was just it wasn't making sense to me.
Yeah.
Everything that I was learning, I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense to me.
Wow.
And then it got to a point where I was learning. I finished the first 2 years, and I had a leadership class.
Ooh.
And I was doing the leadership class, and I realized that I learned more about leadership in this company than they're teaching me in the class.
Yeah.
Because I started the class and I was answering the questions right away, and I had professors that told me, wow, how do you know this stuff? I was like, well, I know it outside of here. It wasn't because of a pharmacy school.
Yeah.
At some moment I realized this isn't going to get me to where I want. The leadership was what was grabbing my attention more than the pharmacy side of things. And that's when I was like, okay, this is definitely not for me.
So that was kind of an affirmation of like you have basic knowledge, and you kind of realize like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to push a narrative onto you, but you kind of realize like I don't need traditional education to head the route that I want to be in, or to know what I want to know, right?
Correct.
That's
so
awesome.
Once I started here with PHP, I realized that my goals and my dreams were always the businesswomen, the suits, the whole 9 yards. And I was like, I'm not going to get that in the white coat. It's not going to get me there. And then during the leadership class, they had us read books that Mr. and Mrs. Stacy and the leaders of this company have recommended to me. I was like, I already read these books before. I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when I said, let me stick to what I like.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So funny enough, about 2-3 weeks ago with a coworker, we were just talking and stuff, and like I said, I'm a very inquisitive person. I'm super curious. I love to learn. I don't like traditional education. I think it can, to some degree, do some damages to some people, like emotionally in this case. But I love learning. I love talking about entrepreneurship, politics, theology. I love learning vocabulary words. It's just random stuff like that. And so 2 weeks ago, this kind of like drove me, and it's not to lift up my ego, but it's like, okay, like clearly I'm doing something right, the co-worker and I were talking, et cetera, and then he says like, dude, like, where'd you go for school? I was like, oh, I never went to school. And he looks at me like, wait, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, you strike me as someone who like has gone to a college before. I was like, oh, well, no, I haven't, So it's like there's just something about learning. Like people see that too when you're learning, and they see that, and because that's how you're not talking about dumb stuff like, oh, who what celebrity's dating who, or oh my gosh, who won the Super Bowl. Like I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about. I'm telling you, I'm a sore thumb that sticks out. I love talking to people. I love having conversation, but like smart conversation, not like, hey, what's your favorite ice cream? So I think that's really good in terms of that, and I love to get to know people's stories and learn about just who are you, where did you come from, tell me about your life, that type of stuff. And so that's where it leads to my following questions with PHP. First of all, I need to meet this Mr. and Mrs. Stacy. They sound like great people, but how have they like impacted your life? Not just like not spiritually in the sense of like, oh, they're the Messiah, but like in the sense of like kind of like drawing you towards closer to God, as you mentioned, and then just career-wise, like how have they helped you out?
Okay. So for starters, Mr. and Mrs. Stacy, blessing.
Wow.
Just a blessing to have in my life. When I originally got started in this company, I didn't talk to people.
Wow.
If we were sitting in front of each other right now and we were having a conversation, you'd feel the heat coming out of my body because of how nervous I was. And with them, I got to a point where not only was I reading more, reading in general, reading more, and then it got to a point where I was able to talk to people, able to do presentations for multiple people in a room. It was just seeing myself grow to the point that I wanted to originally. And I never realized how bad I wanted it until I started to achieve it. Until it started to happen. I was like, this is always what I wanted. And it was thanks to them and, of course, the Lord for achieving where I am right now.
Yeah.
And it's this company in general that got me closer to God. Wow. It's just seeing the leaders in this company talking about praying and tithing and going to church and everything that got me back to church and got me even closer than I was before.
Wow.
It's just listening to them speak on stages about how, you know what, listen, he can give you everything, but he can take it away in a second. That got me to that point.
Wow.
I was from a Christian upbringing my whole life.
Yeah.
It just, I was the black sheep in my family, to put it that way.
I got you. Dang. So for the listeners listening, could you explain what PHP is? Like I know a little bit about it. People, it stands for People Helping People. I know PBD, Patrick Bet-David, he founded it, which I want to talk about him in a second. But kind of like what is the model of PHP? What is the purpose of PHP? What does it do? Like the sale, or not sales, but you know what I mean? Like the company revenue, how does it make money, all that stuff. Could you explain that to the listener?
Okay. The simplest way to explain it is getting into PHP, I realized I was becoming financially free. And my goal became, okay, I want to become financially free, but I want everybody else to become financially free.
For sure.
Maybe I can't reach the whole world, but I can reach as many as I can. And that was my biggest thing coming into this company. But coming into the company, it's more of teaching people about life insurance, getting people out of debt, setting them up for their retirement as early as possible. It's that simple.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. And so speaking of debt, so like do you guys kind of sit down and plan on how to help people like what's the best way to get out of debt, like with student loans, medical, like do you guys do that type of stuff too?
Everything.
Awesome.
Between it's sitting down with clients or sitting down with people in general and going over, okay, what can we fix?
Yeah.
And if everything looks good, how can we make it even better? How can we protect your money?
Awesome. I'm a huge advocate of Dave Ramsey. Love Dave Ramsey's philosophies and everything. Like how does that compare to this baby steps, for instance, in terms of like you guys helping people? Because I'm a huge advocate. I have no debt, thanks be to God. I've seen the damage that it does to people, and I've experienced it. $20,000 in debt, $16,000 in car payments, $4,000 in braces, and also with a very limited income at that time, pretty much making close to nothing when I lost everything in the stock market. So like how do you guys help or make the structure of helping people get out of debt? Because that's a big thing for me, is just helping people get out of debt in general.
Well, multiple ways. One, there's obviously debt solutions. That's open to everybody that would like to utilize it. And then two, it's not living paycheck to paycheck. Because unfortunately we were raised up to believe, go to school, get a degree, graduate, get a good job, 401k, and you're all set up for retirement. Great, it all sounds amazing, unless I don't want to go to school. But let's say I do, I graduate and I get my job and I set up my 401k, I'm putting money in there for retirement, but most of us don't understand that what happens if the market drops? What happens if the market takes a hit? Am I really set up for retirement? Not really. But that's the plan we all follow. And it's more sitting down with clients and breaking that down and understanding where they are right now and what's their goal, where do they want to be, and how do they want to protect their money for that retirement stage.
Yeah.
Now, with everything that's going on right now with Doge and all that stuff, a lot of people are leaving their jobs. And it's just, okay, this is how much you have set aside for retirement. Is it really going to last that long?
Yeah.
It's just about protecting that money so that when they're ready to retire, they don't lose it all. They have more than enough to retire.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you have been seeing a lot of people in their late 60s, 70s, and 80s that are still working.
Yeah.
Because their money's not enough. It's not lasting them as long as they need.
Yeah.
And it's just not getting to that point. It's starting early so that you don't have to be working that long.
Do you think with not having enough money as a nest egg, right? Do you think that part of it is either, like, where do you think the problem comes from? Because I think to myself, like, okay, it's pretty simplistic, like, stay out of debt, keep investing into whether it's a 401k plan or, good growth stock mutual funds, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it sounds easy, but like, consumerism is ridiculous here in the country. Like, a lot of people just don't know how to say no to the salesman. A lot of people don't know how to say no to the pretty shiny stuff, whatever, right? Like, and it's a serious issue, and I see it. Like, I've been binge watching this guy called Caleb Hammer, who basically, do you know who he is by any chance?
I don't.
So Caleb Hammer, basically, he does like an hour and a half of basically financial audits, going through people's history. And these are people who are like struggling, but it's not because the universe or whatever just hit them. It's because they're making very poor choices, right? He's the best way to say he's like the non-Christian version of Dave Ramsey. He's like Gordon Ramsay of finance, basically. He'll yell, he'll do his thing, whatever. It's kind of funny, but also it's like I can understand where he's coming from. Maybe not the most loving way to help people out, but his heart is to help people out. So I say all that to say there seems to be a very like, what's the word? Not psychological, but like just misbehavior with money and everything in general. So my question is, I say all that to say, like, where do you think the problem is? Because clearly there's some type of psychological, like, not like, issue necessarily, but like a psychological way of saying, no, you know what? I'm going to delay gratification. I'm going to save up. I'm going to get out of debt, whatever. Where do you think the problem comes from?
So I personally see it as it's the way we were raised up. Growing up, and of course I experienced that myself, and I know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
It's growing up with not having what you want to have. It's growing up with seeing families argue about money, or argue about where's this bill is going to get paid from, or where the next paycheck is going, because they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And we were raised up to psychologically believe that there's a glass ceiling. I believe that, making $15, $20, $30 an hour is more than enough for me.
No.
And I went through that multiple times where whatever job I had before school, whether I was making $15 an hour, I was making $30, $40, $50 an hour. The only thing I got from my parents was, wow, that's a lot of money. I was like, okay, to who?
Yeah.
Who is that a lot of money to?
Who sets the standard?
Who set that standard? Because it's not for me.
Yeah.
I still wasn't living the lifestyle I want to live.
Yeah.
I still didn't drive the car I wanted to drive. I didn't live in the house I wanted to live in, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's just not believing that we can actually achieve the financial freedom that we want.
Yeah.
It's just being able to say, you know what, that's it. I'm done. I'm done living paycheck to paycheck. I want to make a change.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change if you don't do.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, and that's so funny you say that, because I had a conversation with a friend of mine and my mother about this like several months ago. But I one day I was working, and this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, how much does so and so pay an hour?" And then I don't know why. It's not because of this particular thing, but it got me thinking. I was like, well, I don't know if this is radical or not, but like broke people, I've noticed like they tend to ask how much an hour. Rich people ask how much of a percentage, meaning, if I invest into this, how much of an ROI do I get? That's how rich people, I've never talked to, heard from, or met a rich person or a wealthy person who's like, oh yeah, I make X amount an hour. It's like, no one says that. Not
Right.
Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos, anyone you can think of. I've never heard a millionaire or a rich person be like, here's how much I make an hour. No. Broke people, and when I say broke, I'm not talking about like dirt poor. I'm talking about people who are struggling financially. Like, that's a broke person, So it's like, or someone who can't get ahead. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm just saying like there's a truth to it, right? I've noticed that there is an ongoing thing of like, oh, how can I make a quick buck? How can I make $150? Or like, oh, like kind of like what you're saying, like, wow, I just made $200 in one day. That's so much. It's like, well, to what standard? To who is it? And that type of thing. And so when I was 18, like, you know, I graduated high school and I thought to myself, oh, wow, like percentage-wise, I always thought in percentage with the stock market. I'm very big into the financial markets. I love the stock market. Like, I think it's a powerful tool. I think it's better than real estate, but that's just my opinion. But I've always thought to myself, okay, like if I have 200,000 in an account and I do 5% a month, that's, sorry, I'm having a brain fart. That's $10,000 a month right there, you know? It's like that's good money. You know, if I have a million, 3% a month, that's $30,000 a month off a million. It's like, okay, so that, and that's how my mind works. You know, I've always thought in the interest of compound interest, you know, that's just how it's been. So I guess like, you know, to what degree, like what can someone do? If someone's like, hey, if someone was sat here right now with you and they're like, hey, I want to better my finances. I want to have a nice nest egg. I don't want to struggle. What do I do? What are you going to suggest to them?
Okay. Going back to the point of you saying if I had this much money and I get a certain percent return, that's all amazing. The return that's what we're all hoping for. Now it just depends on where am I putting that money. If I put it somewhere where the market drops, I don't have principal protection. It's all about principal protection.
Yeah.
The simplest way to look at it is if you put $100 in the stock market, market drops 50%, how much do you have?
Off 100? $50.
$50.
Yeah.
Market goes up 50%, how much do you have?
You're just break even at that point.
No.
Or no, excuse me. No. You're right. Yeah. You're up to 75.
$75.
Yeah.
So is your principal protected?
No.
No.
Not in this case.
No. So in order look at how much you need to make to break even.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that the market went down 50% and up again 50%, you're still not even.
Yeah, you're not.
That's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
Where are you putting your money? Where's your money? And again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't have an emergency fund. I'm not saying don't put money in the stock market.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have an emergency fund. Have enough money in there for at least 3 to 6 months.
For sure.
And then you can put money in the stock market, but only put where you're comfortable losing tomorrow. But other than that, how are you setting up for retirement?
Yeah.
Because it's our mentality. It's how we were raised up of you put your money in this. Let me go down to when we were younger. Grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad, where do they usually tell us to put our money?
In a savings account.
You got
That
savings
draws like
account.
0.01%.
Okay, you got savings account, I got piggy bank, but same idea.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Whether it is a savings account or a piggy bank, it's the same idea. You're putting your money somewhere where, yes, it's safe to an extent,
Yeah.
and you're making very little to return. Very little return. If it's in a piggy bank or shoebox underneath the mattress, you're not making any return.
Yeah.
But then after that, we're told, okay, you have some money put aside. It's time to invest your money or put your money somewhere your money can grow. Stock market, 401k, IRA, or mutual fund.
Oh.
Now with all those options, and again, I'm not saying don't have any of those. I'm saying put in there what you're comfortable seeing yourself lose tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's the American dream. The house with the white picket fence, 1.5
Yeah.
kids, a dog, and life is all set.
Yeah.
Now with that, real estate can be the American dream. But if you look at it in the perspective of that, the wealthy people use it to have cash flow and tax advantages.
Yeah.
We look at it as I have a house to live in. And then we're paying mortgage for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Now it's just how do you protect your money? Where's your retirement money put where it's protected? We are making 8, 9, 10% on your money and you're not losing anything.
Yeah.
So that your principal is the same. So that even if the market were to drop the first year, which is almost impossible, but if it does, whatever you put in there is still protected.
Still
You didn't lose a
protected.
penny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. And so I think there's a lot of misunderstanding too with PHP. I think a lot of people think, oh, con artist, a pyramid scheme, this isn't that. And I'm pretty sure if that were the case, PBD would have been exposed years ago. So I don't, and also whoever's currently running operations would also have been exposed, and that would have been showed. But I don't think that's the case. But again, I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding. So like, what are some misconceptions you think people have about PHP, if there are any?
So as you just said, the pyramid scheme, all that jazz.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is, one, we are partnered with Integrity.
Yeah.
Integrity is the largest privately held brokerage in Texas and the second largest in the country.
I'm not gonna lie, when you said integrity, I thought you meant like the actual like.
So we actually bought the title out. So the word integrity, yes.
Wow. Okay.
But one, we wouldn't be partnered with such a
Yeah.
huge company
Yeah.
if this was a pyramid scheme. And then let me ask you a question. You work at, let's say for example, you work at Publix, correct? You are just a worker there. Who's above you?
The regional manager of that location.
Management, regional manager, and then who's above them?
CEO.
And then how many people do you have up top?
like directors, I guess. I don't.
Like
sure.
CEO, you're talking about one CEO probably.
Yeah.
A couple, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it or is it not a pyramid?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the biggest thing, and I honestly, I learned this from Mr. and Mrs. Stacy, scam, it stands for still confused about money. It's not a scam.
Yeah.
You're just, same idea with the CD when it came out. And you told people, put your money in there, you're going to get a return. No, nobody believed it,
Yeah.
did they?
No.
It's the financial world. It's changing.
Yeah, for sure.
Wherever you go, it's going to be that way. It's just you're all the way on the bottom working at Publix or working at CVS or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I personally worked at CVS and I worked at multiple companies where I was all the way on the bottom. No matter how much you're promoted, are you ever going to be the CEO of the company? It's very rare, isn't it?
Very rare, yeah. Super rare.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. And then, I guess like, what are your plans with this moving forward? Like, do you want to branch off eventually? What's your view on that? If there is an option, I'm not sure how it works.
Okay. So first of all, blessing to have Mr. and Miss Stacy in our lives again. Do we want to eventually branch off? Probably.
Okay.
It's not something that we have fully discussed, but probably to have our own office. So my goal when I originally came into the company, and I said this to Mr. Stacy, I was like, what if I build an army? What if I have at least, for starters, 1,000 people that are financially free and happy and making enough money? And he said, go do it. I said, okay, let's. Wow. I want to work on that.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And when I originally said it, I didn't think of it that way. It was just something that came out of my mouth. I was like, okay, I can have 1,000 people that are financially free.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, and that's my goal.
Wow.
My goal is to have at least 1,000 people that are completely financially free, not living paycheck to paycheck. That's aside from how many clients we eventually want to help, of how many people that we want to help protect their money. But that's definitely my goal. Unfortunately, I'm a very obsessive person.
Hey, I respect it.
So I look at something and I want it, and I'm going to work as much as I can to get it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. How do you make sure that in terms of your work, like how do you make sure you don't keep that as an idol over God, or that's distracting you away from the Lord, I guess?
So I can't let it distract me away from God, because as much as I told you earlier, as much as He can give me, He'll take it away in a second to remind me who's in control.
Yeah.
So I need to always thank God for what I have.
Yeah.
And it's His blessing that lets me move on. Because certain things that I haven't achieved yet, and I know it's going to happen soon. Yeah. It's just I'm waiting for His blessing because I'm not ready yet. It's just looking at God and saying, prepare me for this. I'm not prepared to have certain things happen right now. If I do, I'm probably not going to be the best person around these things, or I'm probably not going to be grateful for having that blessing. Yeah. It's just being ready to have it and having God bless you enough to say, okay, you know what, you're ready to handle this right now.
Wow. And then, excuse me, what's something God's been teaching you recently?
God's been teaching me recently?
Yeah, the Lord has been teaching you.
To be grateful.
Oh, that's a big one.
To be humble.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
I've been through situations where I was, I guess, maybe at a company event and something small happened and I'm complaining to one of the leaders of, oh my God, I couldn't find a hotel to leave my dog in. And he was like, Dina, listen to yourself. I was like, okay. Yeah, it's just being humble and being grateful. And I was like, okay, I never had these stuff. Now it's time to, every time something like that happens, I'm like, I'm grateful. Leaving my dog at a hotel is something amazing. I never had that. Yeah. And now that I have it, I'm like, I'm looking at it as an issue. I'm like, all right, it's time to be grateful for those things. Yeah. It's time to be grateful that I wake up in the morning, that I'm breathing, that I'm healthy.
Praise God. Yeah. Amazing. That's awesome. And then PBD, met him, right?
Yes.
I think.
Yes. So we met him at a company event.
Okay.
He was there at a company event. It wasn't more of like meeting him face to face. It was more he was there at a company event. We got to see him. We got to hear from him.
Yeah.
And looking at somebody like PBD online, it's like in my head, I was like, I don't even know if he's real. I know he's human, but he's on social media. Yeah. And then you see him in person, you're like, oh my God, he's real. Yeah. That's the only thing that came out of my mouth for like a good hour was, oh my God, he's real. And PBD's phenomenal. That's the way awesome. He turned this company and the way he's built so many leaders to be the way they are right now,
Yeah.
and to train us and to get us to where we want to be. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That really is great. And then, you know, I want to, I think we have to go soon or wrap up soon, but I want to ask, like, if someone wants to get into this, right, and they're like, oh, I want to be like her, I want to get, you know, start getting enrolled, do whatever, like, what is the very first few steps you would recommend for someone to get, whether it's PHP or some other type of life insurance agency? What would you recommend?
I mean, definitely meet with somebody that works there, or somebody that's it within the company. Ask all the questions that you want, understand everything. I mean, the process of working within the company, and I'm almost positive it's the same for every single company, it's not very complicated. It's something that could be done in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It's just how coachable are you, how much do you want to get mentored, and how
Yeah.
much do you want to grow.
Wow.
How much money do you want to make, and how do you want to work towards that?
So there's no cap on, like, your salary or how much you could make. Like, if you just gotta want it, basically.
Yes,
That's
there is
amazing.
absolutely no cap.
That's awesome.
You can make as much as you want. You just got to want it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's great. And then also too with the, I guess, the structure in terms of pay or your commission and everything. So, like, you know, you work at a McDonald's, you know, okay, I'm getting paid per hour. You work as a realtor agent, you know, you're getting a percentage off the sale of the home. How does the structure here work with PHP specifically?
So it is a percentage.
Okay.
When you help a client, it's a percentage off the product.
Gotcha.
We are partnered with 21 different companies.
Wow.
So the whole idea behind it, or how PBD built it, is we have 21 different companies that we're working with. So if I'm sitting with you, if I'm sitting with whoever I'm sitting with, it's more of a tailored fit approach. What do you need? We have so many different companies.
Okay.
What's a better fit for you?
Yeah.
So that, one, I'm not selling you just the one product I have. So in agent term, it's I'm not leaving money on the table if I don't sell you on anything. And then it's, what do you actually need, and how can I help you? It's what's a better fit for you. Because sometimes we'll sit with clients that are like, okay, maybe debt solutions is the best fit right now, or life insurance, or retirement planning. It depends on who you're sitting with and what they need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then this will probably be the last question, but if I'm someone who's like, all right, I'm looking around stuff, what makes PHP, what makes you guys stand out compared to the other companies? Why? I know this one's a tough question, but why should I go with you and not someone else?
Okay, so a couple of different things. One, partnered with so many different companies, we're not selling our own product.
Yeah.
So no matter who I'm sitting with, it's a tailored fit approach to the client.
Yeah.
Two, we provide the coaching, the mentorship. You will have access to myself, Mr. and Mrs. Stacy, whoever's in the office at all times. We're here for in the business and outside the business.
Wow.
We provide the trainings to the agent. We have multiple platforms that they can use. We have the CRM, trainings, everything is provided to them. And then we have company events. We have 3 events a year.
Okay.
And then we'll have people on our stage to train the agents, like Tom Hegna. I'm sure you know who. No?
Tom Hegna? No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Financial guru. Simple way to explain it.
Yeah.
We've had George W. Bush on our stage.
Oh,
We've
wow.
had the late and great Kobe Bryant. We've had private concerts from Ludacris. So there's the fun part, and there's obviously the learning part, because that's what we need. And we'll have people like that on our stage. It's just having PBD and having the leaders of the company being able to have these connections. Just our last event, we just had Tom Hegna and we had Fawn Weaver. I'm not sure if you've heard of her.
I've heard of her, yeah.
Yeah, Fawn Weaver is one of the she's one of 5 billionaire African-American women.
Wow.
Having people like that pour into us is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, that's awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it so much,
Pleasure's
sincerely.
mine. Absolutely.
I hope people walk away with a lot of knowledge and learning from this. Very powerful story. Very powerful, just background in general. Is there anything you want to share with the viewer, the listener, if they're like, hey, let me hit you up about some life insurance stuff or whatever? Like, is there anything you want to plug out there?
Nothing specific. All I want to say is don't box yourself in. Don't live somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
Know what you want to do and just go for it. Don't live paycheck to paycheck. That's the simplest way to put it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine.